Thanks, Maggie. I'm so excited to be here. So today, brain is a topic of the world, and we are going to be talking about the brain today. So let's check if we have the right equipment. All right, check if you have a brain. I think I do. So we are in the right place. And today, you are going to find out some secrets about what your brain really is and what it does. So my name is Paula Oleska, and I'm a best-selling author, mindset maverick, and brain optimizing expert. I need to wait for my slides to kick in. There it is. You see that I'm a best-selling author. So as Maggie said, I'm a brain optimizing expert. I've been doing that for 30 years, and I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. And professional women hire me, and men sometimes as well, to become professionally, personally, and financially more successful, and also to become more financially stable and emotionally stable. And I help them fix their biggest problem, because underneath all problems and all kinds of stress, there is only one underlying problem, which is scrambled brains. Once you fix that, people can start thinking logically again, make better decisions, and enjoy their successes. Oh, I see. I'm pressing here it is. It's advancing now. Right. So here you see people celebrating their successes because their brains have been optimized. And the bottom line is that when you unscramble your brain, you can soar and make your brains, upgrade your brains to 2.0. All right, now let's talk about stress. So here's what I know. Most people still follow the tried and true advice from experts, and I'm sure you've heard them a lot. Let go of stress. Don't give in to fear. Change your mindset. Think positively, and so on. Have you heard them? If you heard them, you can type yes in the chat. I certainly have, lots of times, and I still hear them. So the only problem with this advice is that it doesn't solve the underlying problem, and we are going to get into that a little bit later. The only problem is that, it causes a problem because when people don't feel results from that, they may feel better for a moment or for a day, and then they start thinking, what is wrong with me? Why is it not working for me while it's working for all these other people? And the experts are only happy to confirm it. You're not doing it right. You're not working hard enough. You're just sabotaging yourself. And on and on and on and on. Have you heard things like that? I certainly have. So today, I'm going to share with you 3 secrets. I hope I'm on the right slide. About why I haven't found this brilliant advice to be quite so brilliant, and my clients haven't found it either, and that's why they started to work with me. And I want to reassure you that if these methods have not worked for you, it is really not your fault. And you hear that phrase a number of times throughout this presentation, because this is my motto. It's not your fault. We'll find better ways. And because long terms, as I said, this advice never works. So instead, I'm going to share with you what I found to be truly effective to find solutions to the underlying problems. And I'm also going to give you an opportunity to be supported by me beyond today. So how do I know that these secrets will work for you? I found it out the hard way. Many years ago, I was in a scary situation, and at that time, I was in love with all those brilliant techniques. So I did everything I was supposed to do. I worked hard to let go of stress. I thought as positively as I could. I blessed everybody. I placed the situation in the light. and I let go of it and did everything else that was possible. Meditate, affirm, visualize, and everything else. But unfortunately, the situation did not really end well for me. So then I felt guilty because it was supposed to work. It was supposed to make things better, but it didn't. And then on top of that, I felt physically traumatized. My body was tense and I had trouble breathing. And no matter how much I tried to let go of that with my mind, I just couldn't do it. So I started to look for better solutions. And I found better solution after a lot of searching when I discovered the brain. So I finally had the tools to let go of the trauma. And surprisingly, these new tools also accelerated all the other results I was struggling so hard to change with positive thinking, like changing my mindset, dropping certain habits. And what I found out is that now, with those new tools, those things were changing much faster with greater ease. And what was even more important, they were changing permanently. So I still have a lot of work to do, so I'm still working on changing some of that. But some of them just changed completely, like my unhealthy attitudes about money and success. I had a terrible attitude about money because I grew up in a communist Poland when money was a really bad word. Nobody had money, at least nobody that I knew, and it was always a struggle, and to have money was a big no-no. Success was also a problem because you were not supposed to be too successful, and you were certainly not supposed to talk about your success. So that was very profoundly imprinted, and I had to do a lot of work to let go of that. But I did, and that's why I'm successful in my practice. Let's see, what is my next slide? Eventually, I was able to put all of these tools together into my own system. I forgot to mention that one of the biggest changes was that I was able to keep better boundaries and no longer tolerate bad behavior, which was a big source of stress. Is that familiar? Anybody else feels like keeping boundaries and not tolerating bad behavior is a bit of a challenge? So, of course, we are not going to solve all of that today, but I'm going to give you a foundation about what kind of methods will work for you to be able to do that. So, as I said, eventually I was able to put all of these tools together into my own system called Brain Upgrade. And using that system, I was able to help around 5,000 people in 5 different countries. And many of my clients, as I mentioned, started to work with me because, like myself, they were dissatisfied with how long it was going to take to get results, or sometimes not getting results. Some of them specifically said, I got tired of talking about the same thing over and over again. So now we get very fast results. Let me share one of them. So one of my clients, let's call her Sally, recently came back after not working with me for a while because she was really exasperated with her husband. She was considering leaving the marriage. They've been fighting on and off for years, and it really got to a point several weeks ago. So, of course, needless to say, in our first session, she was in a state of distress. In the second session, she said, wow, in less than 24 hours, the emotional charge I had about what my husband says completely disappeared. It no longer brings up all the past grudges. Then after 2 more sessions, Sally said, I have been taking things too seriously. I was waiting for my husband to lighten things up, but it turned out that I can do it myself. So I started to crack jokes when he says things that previously would make me feel hurt, and when I feel hurt, I withdraw. And she added, it's so empowering to see that I'm such a big part of the solution. And then eventually she said, these sessions are like pressing the easy button. They save years of suffering. And I'm so happy because one of my missions in life is to ease suffering. So let's look at what is the easy button. The easy button has many components. And today I'm going to let you in on 3 of the secret ingredients. But first, let's explore experientially how easy it is to benefit from brilliant advice. So take a moment to think about one stressful situation and evaluate your level of stress on a scale from 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. 0 is no stress at all, and 10 will be extreme stress. All right, now let's look at some brilliant advice. So this is a quote from a newsletter from a colleague of mine who obviously still believes and uses these methods. And this is what she suggests in the newsletter. When you hit an obstacle, stop. As you stop, take a deep breath or 2, search yourself and define the emotions that you're feeling, and then wait for yourself to calm down. Well, maybe it's too difficult to wait for yourself to calm down. So let's look at another suggestion that she has. So accept that you feel emotions and choose to let them go. It's time to switch over to the logical side of your brain. This part of your brain is where you store wisdom and experiences. All right, so let's take a minute, literally a minute, to do that. So do whatever techniques you know to switch to the left side of your brain and access your wisdom. And I will stop talking to give you time to do that. All right, that's almost a minute. So let's see. Evaluate how stressed you feel right now. How successful were you? If you are like most people, it only worked partially, if at all. So later on, I'll show you what to do that's different. And if you couldn't make this work, and of course it was only a minute, you can let yourself off the hook. It's not your fault because your brain is not organized to do that. Why? And here I'll let you in on a secret. Number 1. So stress is not in your head, and it has nothing to do with thinking. And that's why it's so hard to use mind-based method to really let go of stress. So Dr. Hans Selye, who was a doctor and researcher in McGill University in Montreal, thoroughly researched stress in 1950s and described this as a specific physiological reaction. Stress affects your blood pressure, heart rate, muscle tone, and many other physical reactions, including your adrenals. I think you know about adrenals, or at least the adrenaline, the shot of energy that you get when you start feeling stressed. Unfortunately, when the stress persists, adrenals then secrete another hormone called cortisol. Cortisol has a much more damaging effect on your body. And it's a hormone. It's not a thought. So also, why is it so hard to access your left brain when you're under stress? because stress specifically scrambles your brain and logical thinking shuts down. So again, if you try to do that with your mind, you're not going to be successful. It's a physiological reaction. So would you try to control your blood pressure just with your mind? If you could do that, you would probably qualify for a Nobel Prize. But that's what the experts are still telling you to do. So if you can't do that, you can let yourself off the hook because it's not your fault. I will shortly share with you something that actually works, but first, let's look at another secret. By now you know that there is a reason why you cannot talk yourself out of stress. And here's another reason why it's so hard to talk yourself out of your emotional reactions and also out of behaviors. It has to do with your brain. So this chart represents what is called the triune brain. It's a model of the brain developed by Dr. Paul MacLean in the 60s. He studied the brain in animals and humans and decided that the brain has 3 layers. The bottom layer he called the reptilian brain. I called it the behavioral brain because it really controls your behavior, and I'll get back to that in a moment. The second middle layer, which is technically called the limbic system, I call that the emotional brain because one of the primary functions of that brain is to control and regulate your emotions and also relationships. And everything that is above the green line, which is of course only symbolic, there is no meaning to the green in here, it's the thinking brain, or scientifically known as neocortex. So when you hear about cortical functions or neocortex, they are talking about your thinking brain, and that's where your conscious mind is located, and your conscious mind is primarily your left brain. So the reason why this chart is so important is because when you look below the green line, you will see that the emotional brain and behavioral brain are pre-verbal. What that means is they do not speak verbal language and they do not understand verbal language. And that's why it's so hard to talk yourself out of the behavior, because if you talk to yourself in words, then those brains can't hear you. So again, it's not your fault. I'm going to keep repeating that because it's true. If you have not been able to talk yourself out of your emotions or behavior, it's not your fault. And we all try, right? So have you had a situation when you just swore to yourself that you will not have that piece of cake, or you will not drink that glass of wine, and you will definitely not get angry with those lazy coworkers? And then what happened? Well, we know what happened. You did it, right? Because the old habit came back. And again, this is not your fault, because those parts of your brain that control your emotions and behavior just don't hear you, and they keep on doing what they are used to doing. So, are you ready for more secrets? By now you know that the stress is a physiological reaction and you cannot control it with your mind. By now you also know that the pre-verbal parts of your brain that control your emotions and behavior do not respond to words. So here comes the real bombshell. This is the biggest and most fascinating secret of the 21st century. The most cutting-edge neuroscience, called embodied cognition, says that your brain is in your body. So your brain is no longer in your head. So the brain is not just in your head. And let me read you the quote from one of my favorite authors. Guy Claxton, who is one of the preeminent neuroscientists representing cognitive embodied cognition. And this is what he says in his book, Intelligence in the Flesh. That came out just a couple of years ago. So where is your brain? It is all over your body. And what is your brain? It is currents of information from all corners of your body. So let's unpack that for a moment. You can see from this brief description that the brain in your head is a part of the overall system, but that's not where your brain is. Your brain is a communication network that involves your whole body. And that means that you have to use different tools than you are used to if you want to work with your brain, optimize your brain, or change how your brain works. And in that context, what is the mind? Where is the mind? So here's what Mr. Claxton has to say about that. The proper substrate of the mind is not the brain alone, but the entire body. All right, so again, let's unpack that a little bit also. In scientific lingo, when you get out of the scientific lingo, it means, again, that the mind is not superior to the body and meant to control it. The mind is outcome of what happens in your body. Let me repeat that so you can sink in a little bit. And do you see how revolutionary this is? Because it puts the whole system upside down. Because everything we do in our culture, in our Western culture, is based on the mind. So whether it's educational system, self-help system, and almost everything else, it's based on using your mind to achieve results. And it's missing half of the picture. Because your mind is not in the brain alone, but in the entire body. And to reinforce that, let me show you one more quote from Mr. Claxton. My mind was not parachuted in to save and supervise some otherwise helpless and dumb concoction of meat. It is just the other way around. My intelligent flesh has evolved strategies and capacities that I think of as my mind. All right, so again, the mind emerged from a nonverbal intelligence seeking solutions to our situations over the millennia. And therefore, using the mind alone not only misses half the picture, but it's really not effective. So if we are not going to use the mind and words alone to change behavior and counteract stress, what can we do? There is a trick. There is the easy button. And the easy button allows you to speak to your nonverbal brain in the language that it understands. The easy button also changes the brain disorganization caused by stress. It's scientific, but it's really easy to do as long as you know what it is and how to go about it. So what is the trick? Engage your body. All right, that's the trick. And I bet you kind of intuitively already know it. So who among you found that you could think more clearly when you went for a walk? Or you could solve a problem when you went to the gym or did some other physical activity? Yes, you engaged your body, and that activated your brain to solve a problem. But the good thing about the easy button is, oh, and also before we go further, I want to explain why. Why do we need to engage the body? Because everything happens in the body, including your brain, as we were just discussing. The funny thing is that many people don't realize it. So I vividly remember a startled comment of one of my participants when I was teaching stress release. And she said, wow, I knew I was stressed, but I didn't know it was happening in my body. So it is happening in your body. Where else could it possibly be? And now, the good thing is that when you engage your body in this new way, that, let's call it for now the easy button, you don't have to go to the gym, you don't have to get a yoga mat, you don't even have to change your clothes, and you definitely don't have to break out sweat. So we are going to do it right now, and we are going to use it to alleviate stress. So, like before, I would like you to choose a stressful situation, just one, and I would like you to take a few seconds to evaluate on a scale from 0 to 10 how stressed you feel. And it doesn't matter whether it's 5, 6, 7, or even 10. Just give yourself a number in some way so we can compare it afterwards. Take a few seconds to do that. And now I'm going to teach you a very simple activity that you can do right now in your chair or wherever you are that is going to make a difference. So this exercise is called self-hug. What I would like you to do is first cross the ankles like you see in picture number 1, and then reach forward with your arms, turn your thumbs down, cross your wrists, interlace your fingers, and then bend your elbows. And you are now in a position like you see in picture 2. While you're in that position, close your eyes and just relax with your stressful situation. So I encourage you not to try to use your mind to work out the solution, because I want you to experience what happens if you just do something very gentle and physical. So I'm going to give you a minute. I will stop talking and I will come back in about a minute and we'll see how that worked. All right, that's almost a minute. So I would like you to uncross your feet and hands and put yourself in a position like you see in picture 3, with your feet flat on the floor and your fingertips touching. You can rest them in your lap and continue to close your eyes, and we'll take half a minute to sit in this position. And if you lose focus on your stressful situation, that's great. If you start yawning, that's even better. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to stop talking and I'll tell you in about half a minute. Okay, that's about half a minute. So you can let go of that and sit or stand in whatever position you were in before, and go back to evaluating how stressed you feel now on a scale from 0 to 10. So who feels a reduction of stress? You can type your answer yes or the actual number in the chat. If you are like most people, you will feel at least a 30% or higher reduction of stress. Sometimes it's a complete reduction. In one of the presentations, when I used this exercise and I asked for a volunteer, this man said that he was stressed by the fact that he didn't have enough time to do all the things that he wanted to do. So we did this exercise, just like with you, for about 1.5 or 2 minutes. And I asked him how he felt afterwards. And he said, I have plenty of time to do everything I need to do. So it just shows you how fast you can get results. So if you completely resolved your stress, that's great. And pick another situation, because we are going to do one more. We are going to do one more exercise. If you haven't reduced your stress completely, then stay with that and use your current evaluation as a starting point. And our next exercise is called emotional stress release points. You see, stress diverts blood flow from your thinking brain when you can actually use logic, think clearly, and make better decisions to the back of your brain. And the other things happen as well, which we don't need to go into, but that's one of the things that happens. So by holding these points have been found to regulate blood flow to your brain, a number of different parts of your body. So if you hold these points very gently, they will regulate your blood flow, and that will restore your blood flow to a normal, relaxed state. This is how you do it. You hold your fingers together like that, and you very lightly place them over your forehead. And no rubbing or pressing. These points don't need to experience that. Tiny bit of tug outward on your skin, but tiny bit between your fingers. So close your eyes. You can, of course, keep your elbows down also. So close your eyes, and we'll take another minute to sit with these points, and let's see what happens to your stress. Okay, that's about a minute. So you can let go of these points and evaluate how stressed do you feel right now compared to how you felt when we started, both before the emotional stress release points and also before both of these exercises. So who feels a decrease in stress? Type yes in the chat, or type your number, to what degree you reduce your stress. So as I said before, most people that I teach report decrease of stress between 30 and 100%. Of course, if it's a situation really stressful, like for instance, one of my clients recently lost her mother, obviously that's not going to go away in 1 or 2 minutes. It needs to be repeated often. And but each time you do it, it's going to take a little bit of edge out of the stressful reaction. You will be able to function better. You'll be able to think more clearly. And the good thing is that every time you do it, it can only take a minute, maybe 3 minutes, and it's already going to make you feel better. Of course, that's what I do myself. Why waste good tools when I have them? So I use these exercises and a few other ones on a daily basis to help myself think clearly, function more productively, counteract stress, and achieve my results. So who agrees that it's easier to do these very gentle techniques then try to control your stress with your mind. If you feel that it's easier, again, type yes in the chat. That'll be great. And of course, as I said, you can use these anytime, at any point in your day, to eliminate or reduce your stress. Some of my clients say that when they get upset at work, now of course most people are working from home, but when they were working in an office, they would go to an empty conference room or to the ladies' room and just do these exercises for a couple of minutes and come back feeling refreshed and much more able to handle whatever the situation was. So I encourage you to do that. Of course, there are many other techniques and many other secrets I would love to share with you, but since we are limited to the time today, I would invite you to continue to stay in touch with me. And the first thing I would like to do is to send you the handout with these 2 exercises and instructions how to use it. So you can contact me at my email address, paula@brainupgrade.biz, and to make sure that I see your emails, put Savvy Ladies in the subject line, and I will send you this handout. Also, I carved out a few consultations that I can find in my schedule, and I'll be happy to give you a free consultation to evaluate what kind of stress you are dealing with and how I can help you get out of that, eliminate your stress, move forward, and achieve the results that you want. I'm really good at it, and that's why my clients keep coming back, because when they solve one problem, then after a while they have another problem. One of the most impressive cases is one of my clients who was tired of working real estate. She was in her 40s, and she decided to become a programmer. So the first goal we worked on was for her to be able to learn enough programming to be able to get to the boot camp that she wanted to go to learn the kind of skills that she needed. So we did that, and she did that. She got into the boot camp. Then we worked on another goal to get through the boot camp. She was very insecure and very stressed because she was much older than everybody else there, and she had 0 background in math or science. So we worked on that, eliminated her insecurities and stresses, improved her learning ability, concentration, focus, and left brain skills. So she got through the boot camp. And then she was really concerned that she was not going to be able to get a job because, again, everybody else was so much younger and faster than she was, and she felt really inferior again. So we worked on that, and lo and behold, she was able to land a job. And she loves the company. She's still working with them. And she's much happier because she's doing what she really wanted to do. She's very challenged still. There's a lot to learn. But when she becomes insecure or something comes up again, she comes to work on another goal, and then she moves forward. So these are the results that you can get when you press the easy button, eliminate your suffering, and organize or upgrade your brain. So thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. And I want to thank Maggie for inviting me and arranging for this presentation. And I think we are ready for questions.
Okay, great. Thanks, Paula. And I just want to let you know that I was seeing a lot of messages saying yes in the chat, that the exercises that you did today were very helpful for people.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So I will remind everyone, if you have a question, you can use the chat box, or you can email info@savvyladies.org. And the first question for you, Paula, is asking if you can do these exercises before an anticipated stressful situation to try and calm yourself. Does it work like that?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. It's really, that's what one of the great things about this tool, that is so flexible. You can use it for anything. It's definitely very good to use it when you anticipate something stressful. So it may not be enough to eliminate all of the stresses, but it will certainly help you lower the stress level. And sometimes I even suggest that people do it while they are still in bed and reviewing the day ahead and noticing where the stress points are. And while doing one or both of these exercises, one after the other, to stop at the stress points until the stress diminishes. So definitely before any kind of stressful, challenging conversation, exam, or anything that is you anticipate as being stressful, definitely worth doing this. And as I said, you can also do it in the morning before you start your day to get yourself prepared with a much lower stress level. Thank you for your question.
Okay, great, thanks. The next question for you is asking if it's possible to retrain your brain so that its response to stress is eventually different over time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question. I'm so glad you asked, because that's exactly the power of these methods, is that they retrain your nervous system. And I hear that feedback over and over again from people, whether it's a short class or long class or individual client, and they spontaneously often say like, oh, I used to fight with my sister and then I went to see my family and it didn't bother me. Or so as you use these exercises, you will recondition your nervous system, so your stress reaction will not happen as intensely, because as I said, the stress is a physiological reaction that happens in your body. And these exercises, as simple as they are, they have this secret way of reorganizing how your inner chemistry works, so your reactions slowly become more normalized. Yes, so you can definitely use these to recondition your nervous system, so your reactions will be much less acute, let's say, to any kind of stressful situation or things that used to be stressful. And sometimes if you use it long enough, they just don't bother you at all. And I see that in myself and also in my clients all the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Another question for you is asking, how can you try to turn off your brain when you're not used to doing it, or it just doesn't seem like it will stop?
Yes, that's another great question. So did you notice how hard it is to control your mind with your mind? I certainly noticed that, and that's why I gave up on it and looked for something better. So what I discovered in my own research, one of my specialties is to working with emotions, and I discovered a new way, really a shortcut to working with emotions much more effectively. So one of the things I discovered is that the underlying cause of mental chatter is unresolved emotional issue. So if you find yourself repeating things in your mind or arguing with someone in your mind, then focus on your body. Notice where you experience the stress in your body and see if you can identify the emotional reaction. It's usually some form of fear or anger. And allow yourself to process that on an emotional level. So that will get you out of your head and in your body. And also, once you allow your emotion to process a little bit more, it will ease the pressure on your mind because really there are only a few reasons why you have mental chatter, and the most profound of them, the most powerful, is the fact that it's an unresolved emotional issue. When you allow your emotion to process, and I need to say that in our culture, there's so much conditioning that you should not feel fear or anger. So many people don't even want to acknowledge that they feel it. But the first step will be to actually acknowledge, give yourself permission that you feel that in the moment, and allow yourself to experience that emotionally with whatever posture and breathing or changes in your body come with that. And I can guarantee you that it's going to diminish your mental chatter very significantly in a very short amount of time. And of course, while you do one of these exercises, when you process your emotion, that will be even easier. So I hope that helps, and you can email me and tell me whether it worked for you.
Okay, thanks. Looks like we have a few more questions, Paula, if you have time for a few more.
Yes, I'll be delighted. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next question is asking if you have any suggestions for falling asleep when dealing with stress.
That's also a very interesting question, very common problem. So it depends what kind of stress. But there are some factors that are overlooked. So the first thing would be to do these exercises lying down. And let me start backwards. First of all, your body starts changing its chemistry, going towards sleep when it's starting to get dark. So the first step will be to dim your lights in the house and turn off whatever lights you don't need. So it's a much lower level. That automatically changes your inner chemistry and prepares your body for sleep. Then I would suggest that lying down, do the self-hug and emotional stress release, one after the other. It doesn't matter in which order. Let yourself do that for, from 1 to 10 minutes, and allow yourself to process the stress in that way. Then another factor that also, especially right now, since we are all staring into our computer screens so much, you need to relax your eyes. Eyes hold a lot of stress, and tension in the eyes is also one of the reasons why people can't fall asleep. So it's not what I was planning to do, but I'll show you a very simple exercise that will relax your eyes. It's called palming. So you rub your palms together until they are warm, and then you cup them and you cover your eyes like that, and you block out all the light with your hands. So with your open eyes, you're looking into the darkness of your hands, and then you close your eyes, take your hands away, and for a few seconds look at the light, but with your eyes closed. Then go back to that, repeat that 3 times, and I can guarantee your eyes will be more relaxed. So between these 4 steps, you should be able to fall asleep a little bit better.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. Another question is asking if body pain can be addressed by the easy button.
Yes, but it's not sufficient. So definitely one of the things that is already known in the world of science and medicine is that unresolved emotional issues often cause physical problems. There is a doctor called Sarno who made a career out of treating back pain with anger release. And when people come to his office and say, I have back pain, he immediately says, who are you angry with? So when you do things that will release your emotion, you need to learn how to identify the emotional pain that is involved in that. And then when you do something to release that emotion and that pain, that sometimes will take care of the symptom. Of course, you need to get checked medically to know whether the symptom has actual physical component that needs to be addressed. But oftentimes I remember being in a class with a woman who was encouraged to get angry, and she said, I never get angry, but I get migraines. So this is just another example that unprocessed emotions will cause physical symptoms. So there are many other things you will need to do to learn how to get rid of or diminish your physical symptoms. But of course, you can start with these 2 exercises, the self-hug and emotional stress release, and identifying what emotions are stressing you. And just identifying the emotions and giving them a little bit of an expression, like crying, sighing, or even screaming, will be very helpful in diminishing the pressure within your body.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Paula, the last question is asking if your coaching program works virtually.
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. So for a long time, I mostly work with people in person, but over the last few years, I've been switching to working with my individual clients. I have clients who are not in New York. I'm in New York, but I have clients who are either on the West Coast or even in foreign countries. I'm very proud of that I can work with them. And thanks to technology, we can work remotely. So now, because of the virus, of course, I'm working remotely with most of my clients. So group programs as well as individual sessions definitely can happen online, and they are happening every day. Thank you for bringing that up. So I want to reassure you that, yes, if you would like to continue, I'll be happy to work online in a group or individually.
Okay, great. And we will be sending out a follow-up email with information that has Paula's email address and ways you can contact her. And Paula, I just wanted to share in the chat box that there were comments saying, I really liked the easy button metaphor. Thanks so much. This was a really great presentation. Thanks for your encouraging tips, and just more messages of thanks, and that I learned a lot today. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your feedback. Thank you so much, Maggie, for being such a wonderful moderator and helping people communicate and ask questions. And thank you, everybody, for your wonderful participation. I look forward to continuing, and don't hesitate to email me, and we'll be in touch.
Great. And Paula, that's paula@brainupgrade.biz, and the subject line should be Savvy Ladies. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we'll send that in the follow-up email. Thanks again, Paula. It was excellent, and thanks to everyone for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Maggie.
Thanks. Bye-bye.